Now on CoastTV News.
White smoke and a new pope chosen. What led Leo XIV to this historic moment? Faithful Voices, Delaware pastors share their thoughts on the new pope and what his leadership could mean for the church. And a summer standoff. Ocean City short-term rental rules are being challenged. A push to change those rules could impact tourists this summer.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
Here's a live look into Vatican City on this historic day. Good evening, I'm Christina DeRobertis. Welcome to Coast TV News at 11. We begin tonight with new information and reaction on Pope Leo XIV. Prior to becoming Pope, Pope Leo was known as Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost. Pope Leo is 69 years old and he was born in Chicago. Pope Leo also has Peruvian citizenship, having lived in Peru for a third of his life. And here is new video of the now Pope when he was once a cardinal. After his ordination, Prevost went to work as a missionary in Peru. He returned to the U.S. for a few years and then went back to Peru, where he ran an Augustinian seminary in a northern part of the South American country. In 2024, he became a cardinal, where he oversaw the selection of new bishops. Today, the Pope addressed thousands of people gathered at St. Peter's Basilica and viewers around the world tuning in for the special moment. NBC's Jay Gray is at the Vatican with more.
Good evening, and for the first time in the nearly 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church, tonight there is an American Pope. Chicago-born Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who's taken the papal name of Leo XIV, speaking for the first time after his election to a crowd of more than 150,000 spilling out of St. Peter's Square and into the streets of Rome. Among his first words, the familiar Catholic refrain, "Peace be with you." He praised his predecessor, Pope Francis, someone he worked closely with over the last 2 years, and made it clear he intends to follow in his footsteps, calling for an open, giving, and united church, the world's largest Christian denomination with 1.4 billion members, again for the first time, led by an American Pope. And we know just after his election, he asked all of the cardinal electors to stay in the Vatican for one more night so they could have one more night together. He also went to the Piazza where he's lived for the last 2 years, visiting with his neighbors, his friends there, coming back as the first American Pope. That's the latest after an historic day here at the Vatican. I'm Jay Gray, NBC News.
Now here at home, we spoke with many Catholic leaders on Delmarva about this historic day. Father John Clevents of St. Anne's Catholic Church in Bethany Beach says the election of an American Pope was a pleasant surprise.
I'm very excited and pleased that we have an American Pope. And of course, whenever we bury one Pope, there's a sense of sadness and loss. But when we celebrate the election of a new cardinal, there's excitement and wonder about a new beginning. And during this season of Easter time, it seems rather appropriate that we're celebrating the election of a new Holy Father.
Now this here was the moment the world knew that we had a new Pope when white smoke was coming from the Sistine Chapel. And Coast TV News reporter Zacchaea Jennings was with another local priest as he learned the news of the first American Pope. He was watching the newly chosen Pope address the globe.
Father Brian Lewis, the pastor of St. Jude's the Apostle Church in Lewis, is standing outside of the church as he watches the newly chosen Pope address Catholics around the world.
So he just referred to Pope Francis and how to honor him.
Father Lewis says when priests pray, all priests say a prayer for the Pope by name and the bishop of their diocese by name. Following the passing of Pope Francis, Father Lewis had not been able to do that.
There's an awkwardness, a loss, an absence, and a desire for a need for a new pastor, a new shepherd of our church.
Until now, the cardinal who was elected Pope, Robert Francis Prevost, has chosen the papal name Leo XIV. Father Lewis has high hopes for the new Pope as he takes the name after Pope Leo XIII, someone Father Lewis says engaged the modern world.
Given the name that he has selected, he will definitely want to engage with the world and bring the world to a deeper connection with the Lord and our God. And two, his motto is, as Christ is one, we will be one. So he's focusing on unity.
Darling Jesus, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
A prayer for the new Pope. For Coast TV News, I'm Zakia Jennings.
And students today watched the momentous moment unfold as it happened at the St. Francis de Sales Catholic School. Teachers had the live stream on all day during classes, and the school's principal says she's hopeful that Pope Leo XIV will be a role model for both Catholic and non-Catholic students alike.
Leo was the original. Pope Leo the Great is known for peace and for bringing people together, and he actually is known for saving Rome from Attila the Hun, I think it was. And so I think that's what we're looking forward to, is peace, bringing the world together.
And the principal says students were even connecting how Pope Francis and now Pope Leo had similar messaging, making it not only a history lesson, but a theological lesson as well. And in case you didn't know, our new Pope has Pennsylvania ties, like a lot of our viewers. He's a Villanova graduate. Here's his yearbook photo. Students on Villanova campus today expressed joy.
I think it's a testament to this school's strong Catholic faith, and I think it just shows that it's a huge community and everyone's out here, you know, saying prayers in front of the church. It just shows that, like, we all feel such a strong bond of community here, and it's just like, I think I'm going to remember this day for the rest of my life.
And all this brings us to our Coast TV poll tonight. We want to know, what do you think about having the first ever American Pope? Looks like so far we're pretty mixed. 49% are surprised, 41% are proud, 10% just neutral. We also have a comment tonight. It did come from Margie in Lewis. She said she was proud and surprised. Sorry, we couldn't pull it up there on the screen, but you can leave a comment yourself. You can also vote. It's not too late. Just go over to coasttv.com or use our mobile app. And we look now to what is next for the Pope. His schedule in the days ahead, it's pretty busy. A Vatican spokesperson says he will celebrate Mass at 11 a.m. tomorrow with cardinals in the Sistine Chapel. Then he plans to deliver his first Sunday noon blessing from St. Peter's Basilica. Then he plans to hold an audience with the media on Monday. And this is, of course, a historic day across the world. We will keep informing you as we learn more, so stay with us on all of our Coast TV platforms. As we take a live look outside into Lewis now, we're going to turn things over to our First Alert Chief Meteorologist, Paul Williams.
Right now, we take a look at what's happening in Milford right now. We're at 66 degrees at this present time, and we're going to continue to have pretty good conditions for us, partly to mostly cloudy skies with temperatures staying in the low 60s. We're at 61 degrees in Long Neck, Dagsboro, as well as Gumboro, and then 63 degrees actually in Georgetown. Small craft advisory is still in effect. Watching out for breezy conditions from Ocean City down towards Chincoteague, but we're staying relatively clear right now. We had a couple of sprinkles north of Greenwood and Milford briefly, but that's dissipated very quickly. There's another round of scattered showers headed towards Westover. Coming up, we'll talk about the possibility of rain later this evening, going to early Friday.
Thank you very much, Paul. Now to Ocean City. Well, a planning study on Route 90 will begin in July of next year. It looks like work might not end until 2030, but it is happening as the state of Maryland freed up $12.4 million for the planning phase. Maryland's Department of Transportation says it's a big win for a high priority project.
This will position us with the first major step of advancing that planning process in order for us to be able to eventually work towards design and replacement of the bridge. But it's a first step meeting those federal requirements in doing this planning study.
And MDOT says there is no money set aside at the moment for construction or design, but the department says that's normal. Funding talks usually do not begin until the planning phase has wrapped up. Also, a new short-term rental ordinance causing controversy in Ocean City. Coast TV reporter Kevin Zappe shows us how people feel ahead of a possible vote.
'Tis the season for sun and sand as visitors make their way to Ocean City. But those tourists need a place to stay. And homeowner and realtor Terry Miller says they have a right to stay wherever they'd like, for however long.
We can work together to make this town great for everybody, regardless of where they choose to live or if they're here for a day, a week, a month, a year, a lifetime. It should be a great place for everyone.
A new referendum could overturn new rules that limit short-term rentals. But before the vote, the town of Ocean City has to make sure the signatures handed in to force the issue are real. That will happen Friday. Assuming they are legitimate, more than 1,300 handwritten signatures were gathered to try and turn back the rules that would add a 5-night minimum length of stay in residential areas and mobile homes. Ocean City manager Terry McGeehan explains what would happen next if the referendum gets verified.
Well, the board then will present their findings to the mayor and council. The mayor and council then would presumably accept the findings, and as I mentioned, then make the decision on the election.
According to the Ocean City Council, these regulations would only affect around 300 of the nearly 9,000 rentals in town, but that's still proven to be controversial. We talked to some year-round locals in residential areas who actually prefer some regulation because they've seen renters come to these Airbnbs be way too loud and hit the road after the weekend. Miller hopes differing opinions don't add bad blood between neighbors.
So there's a condo right over there. So if you bought over there, you're good. But if you bought that house and want to rent it, you're a greedy out-of-town investor. We should not be throwing around names. We should be focusing on fixing problems.
According to the town of Ocean City, if the referendum gets enough legal signatures, the 5-night minimum length of stay ordinance would be suspended on June 20th until a vote is held and the people of the town are able to have their say. I'm Kevin Zappe, Ocean City, Coast TV News.
And we've still got a lot more news coming your way tonight. Up next, why Comico County schools are changing. We'll show you the new numbers raising concerns for district leaders. But first, from the water to the road, the story of one man who's getting creative with getting around town. That's up next.
And your Bay forecast, we're watching out for scattered showers for early Friday, both in Cambridge as well as Crisfield. But going into Mother's Day weekend, it's looking a lot brighter and a lot better. Your full forecast coming up.
Here on the coast, you see a lot of cars, motorcycles on the roads, and you see a lot of boats, jet skis, kayaks, what have you on the water. But what happens when you combine a jet ski and a motorcycle? In this week's Coastal Connections, we introduce you to somebody who has done just that.
This is Justin Bonneville, and this is Landu. That's the name he has given his motorcycle jet ski hybrid.
My passion would definitely be, anything on two wheels.
Bonneville is a Sussex County native and has owned a motorcycle for more than 20 years. He says the idea of adding the outside of a jet ski to one of his bikes came from seeing them elsewhere.
I seen them done in Florida, and I thought, that looks pretty cool. You know what I mean? And finally I said, I'm going to try to duplicate it.
Having owned bikes for years, Bonneville says knowing how the parts work and go together made the whole process that much easier. He tells Coast TV while the cost was low, labor was high.
Stripped all the plastic off the scooter, slimmed it down. Any extra weight I could slim off of it, I did. And then, once I had that bare frame scooter, then I knew the dimensions of the hole I needed to cut in the bottom of this jet ski to be able to, set it on top.
And finding the jet ski to use worked out just fine.
I actually bought the jet ski out of a buddy of mine's backyard with a blown motor for $100.
He says the best memories for him come from others' curiosity. And he says he never gets tired of all the questions.
It's been very positive, from, young to old. Everybody's at first, they're like, what is that? And then it finally kind of dawns on them like, hold on, what's going on? So it's been cool.
Despite being half jet ski, it cannot go in the water. Bonneville has a pretty quirky response, though, when people ask him.
I always tell people, yeah, straight to the bottom.
Bonneville shares one thing that made all the long work worth it. Reactions from the young ones.
I was that kid. Who didn't, when they seen a biker going down the road, one of them to rev the bike? I mean, that's typical kid stuff, you know what I mean?
And if you're lucky, you could end up seeing him on the road. Bonneville says you can catch him riding along the coast with his beloved Landu all summer. For this week's Coastal Connections in Sussex County, Brendan Conroy, Coast TV News.
Ever so slowly and steadily, we're starting to get a little bit of the rain that's creeping into the Delmarva Peninsula. And then by the time we get to, say, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, particularly 5:30 in the morning, that's when that rain's going to really pop off a little bit more so for us. But as far as tonight is concerned, we will stay in the lower 60s with partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures right now in the 60s. Now, we're at a somewhat balmy 66 degrees in Seaford and 65 in Bridgeville, but for most of us, we're in the lower 60s, 61 Long Neck, Rehoboth Beach, as well as 61 degrees right now, Bethany Beach. The winds right now pushing out of the southeast, relatively calm for right now, wind gusts at about 8 miles per hour. But speaking of the winds, we do technically, and meteorologically speaking, have a small craft advisory that is active for Ocean City, all the way down towards Chincoteague. Now, where you see the pink, this is talking about this coastal area. We're bracing for about 25 mile per hour gusts. So it's kind of a little tricky if you had a small craft, so it's best not to do that. But we are starting to see a little bit of rain starting to ever so steadily and slowly inch its way towards us. It'll become a little bit more in the way of wet streets coming out of Salisbury. But this is that line that's following right along the path of the trough at this point, and those isolated showers are going to become a little more intense throughout the overnight period. I don't expect a tremendous amount of rain, but we could get an intense cell pop in briefly at the very least. Overnight, watching out for a chance of showers, temperatures near the 60-degree mark, if not 59. But here's the storyline. Friday, scattered showers, brief downpour, damp and dreary throughout most of the day. Limited sunshine. Weekend, a whole lot brighter, a whole lot better. Beautiful day, plenty of sunshine, temps in the 70s and the 80s. Now, we do maintain a 56% chance of rain on Friday. We'll drop that over the weekend going into Monday, and we'll jump back to a 50% chance of rain on Tuesday. Here's how quickly that rain's just going to jettison through our area. By 11:30, we're looking at most of the rain out of the way. A couple sprinkles down towards Rehoboth Beach. We may have some residual sprinkles behind it, but temperatures are going to bounce back and forth between the 50s and the upper 70s for the most part. The most southern portions of our viewing area, by 9 o'clock Friday, we're totally in the clear by then with the winds coming out of the northwest. But take a look at this amount of rain. We're not even going to get up to about a half an inch of rain in most locations in our viewing area when this rain happens. Once again, possibility of some strong stuff hidden, but nothing that's going to dump a whole lot. Sunday is going to be the pick day with 81 degrees. Then we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's when we watch out for the scattered showers to really kick in, but we will at least have above normal temperatures. So, in rounding this up, here we go. Tonight, shower develop going to the early morning hours. Early morning showers, rumble of thunder just as you wake up to go to work. And then Saturday, 73, sunshine will return. And then finally, here's a look at your extended forecast. Mother's Day is looking very favorable with a high of 81 degrees, and we'll stay dry for Monday. But then next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, that'll be a second round of more girthy rain.
Good to know. Thank you, Paul. Well, Wicomico County hosted its State of the Schools today, and one point of conversation was its changing demographics. Take a look at some of the numbers from the district during this year's State of the Schools. According to the district, 65% of their students live in poverty. Almost 15% are multilingual and almost 12% are special education. The district also shared another statistic: 5% of students are homeless. Superintendent Dr. Micah Stauffer says this is an increase from years past and a concern for the district.
Just requires a lot of, that provides a lot of challenges for our schools to be able to make sure that we're providing all the resources that are needed to be able to effectively educate students under those circumstances, which are extremely challenging circumstances.
Also, 2 homeless shelters in Salisbury say they have seen an increase in youth homelessness. New tonight, Delaware has been ranked #1 in the nation for hospital quality. It's according to a new U.S. News and World report. The first state moved up from #2 last year. Delaware also ranks in the top 10 for overall health care and quality and access.
Here's a look at your Gulf forecast and your Bay forecast. We're looking forward to stay very clear on both days. Prepare yourself for a little rain for Friday.
This is Coast TV News at 11.
New tonight, a new class action lawsuit has been filed against Minnesota-based United Health Group. A group of shareholders filed the lawsuit in New York on Wednesday. They allege the health insurance company misled investors by not adjusting its 2025 financial outlook after the murder of United Healthcare CEO. Weeks after the murder, public backlash and anger grew against the company over the number of claims denied. The suit claims the company did not acknowledge changes in business tactics and overvalued projected net earnings. The lawsuit claims shareholders suffered major losses, and in a statement, United Health Group denies any allegations of wrongdoing. The plaintiffs are seeking a jury trial. Well, it is the leading cause of death for teenagers. Accidents. They account for nearly half of all deaths in this age group, according to the CDC, and motor vehicle crashes are at the top of that list. A new study suggests the age of the car that a teen is driving makes a huge difference. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to an author about the research and what she hopes parents take away from it.
It's never easy allowing a new driver to take the wheel. Experts say teens face a higher risk of crashes due to lack of experience, immaturity, and their tendency to take risks.
Particularly when teens start driving unsupervised.
Ginger Young is an author of a study published in JAMA Network Open, which suggests another risk factor. She says the older the car that people drive, the higher the risk of dying in an accident. The study says driving vehicles 6 to 15 years old had a 19% greater risk of fatal crashes, and vehicles older than 15 years had a 31% greater risk, both compared to those driving vehicles 5 years old or newer, regardless of the driver's age. But Young says many parents pass down an old vehicle to their new driver.
Teen drivers that is 15 to 18 years old will more likely than middle-aged drivers that is 31 to 55 years old to drive a vehicle that is older than 15 years.
Young says the newer vehicles and driver assistance technologies can not only reduce crashes, but also their severity. And since parents often control what car their teen drives, she says teens should drive the safest vehicle available. If a newer model isn't in the budget, get frequent maintenance to ensure the car is running properly. When possible, seek out a car with driver assistance technologies and help them develop safe driving habits by educating teens on the dangers of risky driving. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
Good evening, sports fans. We've got Henlopen softball action. It's the 11-2 Polytech Panthers and the undefeated Cape Henlopen Vikings in softball. DSN's Luke Milai is in Woodside, Delaware to break it all down.
Hello and welcome to Polytech High School, where we had a major battle in softball. The Henlopen North title was on the line between the 16-0 Cape Henlopen Vikings and the 11-2 Polytech Panthers. Winner would host the Henlopen championship game against Lake Forest. They've already wrapped up the Henlopen South, so a lot on the line today. Cape Henlopen explodes in the fifth. A triple from Ava Calciano gets things started as they needed some insurance, only ahead 2-0. A stand-up triple. That was the second triple of the game for Cape Henlopen at that point. And then how about the third triple of the game coming up? It's Abby Marsh again. Sends it into left center field and shows off the speed. You saw her for a moment flying past second, goes to third. She picks up an RBI triple that blows things open for the Vikings. Then for Polytech, they would get on the board. Kaylin Vogan would single in the sixth to bring in another run. And Polytech would load the bases in the sixth with just one out, trailing by 4. They would strand all 3 runners, and that is how this one would end. Cape Henlopen wins it 5-1 on the road.
Luke, thank you so much. That'll for sports. Have a great night, everybody.
Here's a live look outside into Milford. The wonderful Coast TV Chief Meteorologist Paul Williams will have one more check on the forecast coming up after the break. Here's something cool to do this weekend. The Mare Institute is gearing up for its annual yard sale. They've accepted donations up until today, and the sale is scheduled for Saturday, May 10th. Funds raised support marine animal rescue and outreach programs. Also, don't forget, each and every Friday you can cheer up with a weekly dose of local good news from Coast TV. It's full of features, cool things to do each weekend, and more, and you can sign up for free. Just go to coasttv.com/sign up.
Your umbrella giveaway winner is Kevin Sharon of Lewis. Congratulations, courtesy of Paul Davis Restoration Home Remodeling. Now, you can keep up with your forecast by calling our number, 443-880-9100. Your forecast is just a call away. Sponsored by the law offices of Brugstead, Mandalis, and Federico. And finally, want to take a look at your 10-day forecast. Now, we are expecting a chance of scattered showers to kick in for us in the early morning hours just before the sun comes up on Friday, particularly between 5 and 6:30. But on Saturday, we'll warm it to 73 degrees. Mother's Day will push it all the way up to 81 degrees with increasing cloud cover, and will stay dry most of Monday. However, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, another round of rain will push through with the frontal boundary paying us a visit. But after that, we'll push it right back into the 80s again for the following Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the following Sunday.
Okay, Paul Williams, thank you for that. And thanks to you at home for joining us for Coast TV News at 11. For some more local news and local weather, you can download our Coast TV News app. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, that's up next, and we'll see you back tomorrow for Coast TV News at 5 a.m. Have a great night.